All right, so today we're going to talk about QuickBooks point of sale, kind of, and start from the very basics. We're going to do it every day for the next week, 1 hour
Brandon,
session. So starting from the very basics,
Brandon,
and
can you
Chris
stop recording?
Messler is going to
Brandon,
be.
Brandon, stop recording.
No, I'm not stopping.
You
All right, so today we're going over QuickBooks point of sale, starting at the very basics, kind of theory, what it looks like, how you might install it on what systems. So Chris Metzler is going to host this, and I'm going to let him take over, and we're going to go every day for 1 hour for 5 days, and all of this will be available for replay if you need it. So Chris.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. So today we're just going to discuss kind of the basics and the theory behind QuickBooks point of sale. I know there are a lot of QuickBooks experts out there that have used desktop, that have used QuickBooks Online, Enterprise, etc. But point of sale is kind of a different beast. So today we're just going to discuss kind of what point of sale entails, the different versions of it, where you would want to set up, etc., etc. So the screen here you see is QuickBooks point of sale. This is going to be the main screen. Now, there are 3 different versions of QuickBooks point of sale. There's Basic, there's Pro, and there is Multi-Store. When you're working with a client, it's helpful to know a few things about their business before you decide what version they're on, or what version they should go to. Basic is just that. It's called Basic for a reason. So it's essentially just a inventory control and a cash register. So Basic doesn't track customers. Basic doesn't track inventory in style grids. Doesn't do purchase orders, doesn't do invoices, etc. It's a very basic version. It's for those clients that are maybe just getting started or don't really want to track much as far as the business that they're doing, inventory-wise, customer-wise, and just want to sell items. I will say in my decade plus of working around QuickBooks, being a user, being training, being tech support and sales, I think I've seen one user on Basic. So it's not one that we usually push people towards. More likely they're going to be on Pro. Now Pro is the, I guess you could say, standard as far as QuickBooks. Pro allows you to do purchase orders. It allows you to track inventory in style grids, which we can go into a little bit more later. But a style grid allows you to create an inventory item with multiple sizes and multiple colors. So maybe a t-shirt in multiple colors in different size runs, a pair of shoes, etc. That most retail stores are going to be looking for. It also tracks customers, which if you're in retail, having your customer information, knowing who's buying what, when, where, how, and why, that's really the gold that we're looking for as far as marketing and as far as building our businesses. Finally, there is Multi-Store, which is what I'm on right now, which is essentially the same thing as QuickBooks Pro, except designed for a multiple store retail empire. It allows you to communicate the inventory back and forth between multiple stores and see an overall health of your business and overall health of your inventory stock. Now, if you're in a retail store, a small retail store, maybe you just have a one register up front. Or if it's a little bit larger, maybe you have multiple registers. When you set up QuickBooks point of sale, it is what we call a server-based software. So the first installation of QuickBooks, so the very first computer we install is what we call the server. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a separate standalone server with beefed up specs like you might expect, if you have an IT background or something like that. It just means that there's one computer that houses the data of your QuickBooks point of sale. That first computer is going to be where the company file resides. And then each individual installation, so each additional computer that you install the software on at the store is essentially a shell. And what the additional computers do is when they get booted up, they open up their QuickBooks and they're looking over the network for the company file. We want to make sure that the quote unquote server is installed on a computer that's always going to be powered on. It doesn't necessarily mean that the QuickBooks has to be loaded on on that computer, but it does mean the computer has to be powered up and be able to be seen on the network. So we want to make sure the files are shareable across your network. And then the other secondary computers look across the network, find that company file, and then populate the data into that additional workstation. So if, for example, you've got a register up front and a backroom computer in the back, it might make more sense to have the register be the server computer, because that's usually the thing that's always going to be on. If the computer is off, the server computer is turned off, no other computers can see it over the network. So we always want to make sure that the server, the first installation of QuickBooks at the store, is on a computer that A, is always on, and B, has shareable files on the network. Now, if we're looking at a multi-store level, what happens in multi-store is the headquarters store creates a data file. So the headquarters store, the first store, is going to be the one that's going to create the inventory item, that's going to create the purchase orders, the invoices, the customers, etc. And every night it's going to take that, depending on how you have the communication, but most people use the Intuit nightly service, where it takes that data and it pushes that data down into the secondary store, the remote store. In that remote store, the computer system there, if we have it set up correctly, takes that data, updates the data in its system, and basically sends a data file back that shows that it's been updated. So it's a two-way communication that is dictated first by the headquarters store and then pushed down into the secondary store. And that works for if you have 2 stores, 3, 5, however many stores you have. That's something that when we set it up, we do it to happen either when you close a store at the end of the day or in the middle of the night. Now that is second to a backup that happens on that server computer every night. So it's a redundant backup essentially. So your QuickBooks will back up the company file onto the hard drive of your computer. It'll also push down the information to the multi-store, where in turn that store will have a server backing up there. So there's a whole company file as well as the specific individual company files that are in the remote stores. Now, if we're looking at the QuickBooks right now, as far as installation, we do have another video available that shows the step-by-step installation instructions, actually setting up the software. The nice thing is QuickBooks understands that not everyone is tech savvy. So it really is a step-by-step process with very easily understandable instructions in the system. So I'm just going to assume that we have our system installed, and we're going to take a look at QuickBooks Point of Sale here. So QuickBooks Point of Sale, this is going to be the main screen. Over the network, if you're looking for where the company file is held, let's pull up the File Explorer. We're going to go into our local disk, users, public documents, into it. And that is going to be where the company files for your QuickBook product is going to be. So here I have QuickBooks, which is going to be the enterprise software, as well as my versions of Point of Sale. Now, as we pull up QuickBooks, we're going to just assume this is the first time we've used it. When you first set up the QuickBooks, we're going to use what we call a setup interview. Now, a setup interview is where you stick the kind of basic data of your system that you want, how you want it displayed, how you want it on the receipt, how you want everything internally to view your company. So in this case, I'm going to put the store name, address, any other information I want down here. I'm going to, if you take sales tax, if your state takes sales tax, here's where you put it. Payments. Now, payments is going to be if you're using Intuit Merchant Services. So every setup of Point of Sale comes with a free merchant service account that we can set up for the client. Now, it's a pay-as-you-go option. So it means you're not paying any money. unless you are actually using it. Now, there is confusion sometimes when people are setting up where it says, would you like to accept credit and debit cards? And you say yes. This specifically means you're using Intuit's merchant services. You don't have to, although we do recommend it, and it oftentimes can get better rates than most other credit card processors. But if you do have a third-party credit card processing system that you're using, you just press no here, and you would still just run that manually in addition to the sale through the register. Now, if you would like to use Intuit Merchant Services, you click yes, and here's where you would actually sign in to your merchant service account. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but very simple way to take credit cards and have it integrated in the system. Studies have shown that an integrated credit card system in a point of sale, I think the average sale takes about 42 seconds. If you use a third party, it takes about 1.5 minutes. So for retailers that have, you know, a lot of customers coming through the door every day, doing high number of transactions, having that ability to have an integrated credit card solution, you know, speed things through the register, speed people through the door. Oftentimes that's a big selling point, and that's something that you might want to take a look at for your clients to do. Gift cards, if you are interested in gift cards, Intuit does have an integrated gift card system as well through a company called GiveX, and we can help set that up as well. Hardware, I'll actually take you through a second section to show you how to set up hardware. And then you would say complete. So that basically sets up the ground rules for your point of sale system. If your customer does have hardware, so the cash drawer, the receipt printer, the scanner, etc., we come down here to the hardware setup wizard. Give it 1 second while it boots up. And this is going to walk you through step-by-step how to install all the different types of peripheral hardware that are available in QuickBooks Point of Sale. You can see here barcode scanner, card reader, receipt printer, cash drawer, etc. Some of the less common pieces of peripheral hardware, we've got the pull display, the physical inventory scanner, a tag printer, which is actually more common, touchscreen monitor, etc. Now the customer pull display, make sure you know the laws in your particular state. Some states require a customer-facing display of the dollar amount and what they're purchasing. Others do not. If you do have integrated Intuit Merchant Services, the PIN pad that it comes with does have a customer display on it, so it would make this a moot point. But there are states, California included, that it's illegal to not have a customer-facing display. So just something to keep in mind as we're getting the system set up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do when we have point of sale set up, before we kind of start everything else, is let's have the preferences. Let's set up the system how we want to run the system. So we're going to go to File and Preferences. Now you'll notice there's two types of preferences, company and workstations, very similar to QuickBooks Desktop if you used that before. Company is an overall preference for how you want the system set up. Workstations can be specific to this particular register, so more hardware related, etc. So we're going to go to Company. Then we're going to pull up our preferences and set up our system. So you'll see we've got the drop downs on the left-hand side for all the different functionalities of QuickBooks and how we can set our preferences. The very main screen, we've got options to require users to log on. So that's going to be, do you want anyone to be able to get in the system and start making a sale right away? Or do you want to differentiate, hey, Johnny is making this sale, Billy's making this sale, Wendy's making this sale, and have the individual employees sign in? You want to track your customers. I'm sure if you're using QuickBooks, you're going to want to track your customers. You can record shipping addresses on sales receipts. So if you have the shipping manager, which is an integrated shipping module through QuickBooks, you can track the difference between a shipping address and just a standard customer address. Sales orders, layaways, work orders. Basically what you can do is these are all default functions of the system, but you can also take away, you can say, hey, I don't want to do layaways. and you can do that, so on and so forth. You want to track employee hours. You might be using a third-party time tracking software, but you can have your employees clock in and out of QuickBooks Point of Sale and run payroll reports out of it. You can push that data over into QuickBooks Desktop if you have it, etc. So it gives you the option. So you can do that through Point of Sale. The nice thing is QuickBooks Point of Sale is really designed to be a kind of do everything for a retail system. So if you want to run payroll, if you want to manually do your payroll through QuickBooks, you can do that as well. Now down here is where it's asking for when you want to automatically create backups. So this is what we talked about earlier. You can have your point of sale system back up once a day when you exit the point of sale, or in this one it defaults to, it backs up at 3 a.m. to that company file. It really depends on how you want to do it and how your system is set up. So for example, if you have it back up once a day when you exit point of sale, that does mean every time you exit point of sale, whether it's 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m., it is going to do a backup. So it does take a little bit longer if you have to get out of the software. It can take a couple minutes longer. The other side is if your computer is not turned on, it won't do the backup overnight. So usually we suggest, even if it goes to sleep, leave your computer booted up and on the network, maybe turn off the monitor, and redo your computer maybe once a week. That's all that's really necessary. And that way, as long as the computer's on overnight, it'll do the backup. Now, don't worry if your computer gets turned off. The first time you boot back up in the system, you'll see a notification that says, the backup did not happen at 3 a.m. Would you like to do it now? And you can always do it the next morning as well. Store info, which you already set up. Field labels. Now, this is a great functionality of point of sale. You've seen it in QuickBooks Desktop with custom fields. So this is kind of a built-in module for creating custom fields. In customers, vendors, and employees, you can each create 7 custom fields and track other information that might not necessarily be in the system already. Here's a big one that we run into with our bookkeepers. So here's where you actually connect your QuickBooks Desktop Financial with the QuickBooks Point of Sale. So all you have to do is click Financial. If you have QuickBooks Desktop on this computer, here's where we would set it up. Now, a couple caveats to connecting with QuickBooks, the accounting software, and the Point of Sale. The data file for the QuickBooks Desktop needs to be on the same computer as the data file for the QuickBooks Point of Sale. So they both need to be on the same quote unquote server. There are, if you want to get too deep into the weeds, there are ways where you can have file sharing, etc. on the network, but what you want to do is have both the desktop and point of sale company files on the same computer, and that way we're going to have a seamless communication between the two. Now in the past, QuickBooks Point of Sale only communicated with QuickBooks Desktop, and essentially that's still true. QuickBooks Point of Sale does not natively communicate with QuickBooks Online. However, we have a company we work with called Ability Business Systems that created an application that allows QuickBooks Point of Sale to communicate with QuickBooks Online and push down that data at the end of the night every day. So you can still use your QuickBooks Online as we see more and more clients switching over to online. You can still use it and have it integrate with your point of sale. It is an additional cost, but it's not as big as you might think. And we have a lot of people using it at this point. If I had multi-store, here's where I would actually set up my multiple stores. You can see, because I'm on a multi-store level system, I've got it set up with 2 stores. Here's where you can set up what we call the store exchange, which is the communication between the stores at the end of the night. Store headings. Now, I'd just like to point out, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to chime in, and I can dig deeper into any particular functionality that you would like to see. Inventory. So it has the ability to associate pictures with your inventory items. I will say pictures are a great feature of a point of sale system. It's really nice to be able to see the product that you're selling as you pull it up. The one downside is it's going to make your backups a lot bigger, and it's going to take a lot longer to back up your system at the end of the night. Units of measure, here's where you could set up multiple units of measure. If you've never used units of measure before, it would be, for example, as we see here, you order dog food in cases, a case of 24, but you sell them individually by the can. So it allows you to create that structure between purchasing and actually selling on the retail side. Pricing, here's where we have price levels. Price levels are a way to kind of preset discounts in your system. So you can have, if your employees have a set discount, you can create a price level called employee, or down here we have sale, employee, wholesale, custom price. What that number is, it's a markdown off of the retail price of the item. It does not, you can't do a markup from the cost of an item, unfortunately, in point of sale. So, we have people that maybe the discount is cost plus 10%. Unfortunately, point of sale doesn't do that. It is a markdown off the regular price or whatever price you give it. Purchasing and receiving, it allows you to create your sequencing method. So if you want your PO to start at 1 and just have PO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., or you can assign it the vendor code and sequential number, date, define a custom. This is actually very helpful with multiple stores. So a big question people have when they set up QuickBooks Point of Sale on a multi-store level is, what happens if I have a document in store 2 that the number matches the document in store 1? What's going to happen there? Especially as you move the data over into your QuickBooks financial software. Here you could associate or you could assign the sequence to be store number and then the sequential number. That way you'll never have the overlap of numbers between the stores. Same with receiving as well. Sales, you can dictate down to how you want the customer's name to be shown on the receipt. You can require a manual media count for the XZ out. So basically you can set up the system where it tells your employee when they clock out at the end of the night or when they shut down the system, they actually have to do a manual media count. So they have to count out the dollars, have to count out the change. It's a good way. It is best practice, I'd say, tracking where the cash is. Although people use cash a lot less or nowadays, it is still something that we want to keep track of. All right, and here's where you can set to open the cash drawer. So the cash drawer is default to pop open automatically with a cash sale or a check sale, but you can have it only pop with cash or pop automatically with every kind of transaction you would like. Here's where we can set up discounts. Here's where you can change your receipt message. This is the shipping tab. This is going to be the QuickBooks Shipping Manager. So what it does, it's a module that allows you to ship directly out of your point of sale. I can communicate with the e-commerce platform. So if you're doing a lot of in-store sales as well as things online or as well as mail order type, it is a way to streamline that process of getting the product out of your store and into the customer's hands. And then you can decide what type of payment methods you take or what kind of cards you take. We see a lot of people that don't take American Express anymore because for retailers, the fees are very high now. So you can tell your system, no, do not take this particular type of card. Tips, you want to click tips. Customers, so this tells you, I would like to communicate with QuickBooks. So send your customer information over to your QuickBooks financial software. You don't have to. I'd say it's going to be smarter. That way you can really track your customers in both softwares. Although we do have a lot of people that use just point of sale as a way to track their customers and then use their financial software just with the kind of raw numbers. But once again, talk to your bookkeeper, or if you're the bookkeeper, discuss with your clients what's going to make the most sense for them. We do have an automatic integration with Constant Contact. So if you and your client are doing email marketing, you can have the data sent automatically to Constant Contact. So we can track our customers by what they purchased, how often they purchased, their zip code, etc. As long as you're putting the right information in for the client or for the customer. And we can develop email marketing campaigns based on that data. Here are layaways, sales orders, and work orders, where you can suggest or require an initial deposit. So a layaway, for example, you could say, I suggest 10% down, or I require 10% down, or whatever amount that you would like. We have a way to email documents, so you can email receipts, purchase orders, etc. Any document here in the system to a customer or vendor. So we set up our email template here. You can show trends on particular items, integrated applications, and mobile sync, which does have the ability to be used. You can use your point of sale with what they call a Go Payment app, which is a way to take mobile sales through a small credit card reader, maybe if you're in the field or at a trade show, etc. So that's kind of the general overall look at the company preferences. You can dig deeper into any of those, or if you have any questions, but I'm just going to go ahead and save here. Do we have any questions so far?
There are none in the chat right now. Chris, let's talk a little bit about who is QuickBooks POS good for, who, or maybe not necessarily who's it good for, but who is not a good fit for POS.
Who is not a good fit? Not a good fit, I think. One issue I've seen is with food. Go ahead.
I would just say specifically, I know restaurants are not a good fit. Places where you might need additional screens or additional printers in the back for kitchen or bar area, things like that are not a good fit. I'm just trying to think of some others. So multi-store, while we can go up to 20 stores, 20 stores, you've got 20 stores, we probably need to be looking at a different solution. But that's really kind of what I was looking at going toward is when we're looking at POS, who is not a good fit? We need to be looking at something different.
Yeah, I think the biggest one we see is the restaurant industry. Having the ticket have to come up in the back in the kitchen. The nice thing is because QuickBooks has an open API, which means they'll basically allow anyone that wants to create an integration to communicate, that there are vendors out there and third-party application creators that have made apps where you can use an integrated scale. So if you're like a deli counter or something like that, where you can have the scale built into the point of sale system, or you can have an age verification application. So for a liquor store, for example, that needs to check IDs for an alcohol purchase. There's all kinds of apps out there that'll integrate with your QuickBooks software that can really customize how you set it up and customize it for your industry. But like Brandon said, I think the one industry that we've seen that really has a problem with QuickBooks point of sale or really has a struggle is kind of the restaurant industry. But we've got clients that are, coffee shops, delis, things like that, that use the system and they love it. It's really a matter of digging into your client and what they're looking for and what they're trying to get out of the system. QuickBooks point of sale wants to be everything to everyone in a good way, where it wants to be universal enough where almost any industry could use it. Maybe not all the features and functionalities will be applicable to your specific client, but it's a very universal software that can cross a lot of boundaries as far as industries that it works with. So we're going to go back to File, and here's something that we get a lot of with new users. They say, I'm on X point of sale system now. I want to come over to QuickBooks, but I don't want to lose all my data. I've got all these customers. I've got all this inventory. I don't want to have to enter it all in manually. I don't want to have to kind of start from scratch. So within point of sale, as we set it up, if you go to File, Utilities, we've got an import function. This allows you to either add new data or update existing data. And there are 4 groups that you can import into point of sale: inventory items, inventory pictures, vendors, and customers. So if you've got an old system and you want to bring it over into point of sale, I mean, I know you think it's going to be the easiest thing just to import everything. I will say you want to make sure you clean up your data before you bring it over. So if you've got 500 clients or 500 customers, but only 200 of them are real, don't bother wasting your time bringing over the kind of junk customers. Just bring over good data. But this allows you to bring over inventory items, inventory pictures, vendors, and customers. You can import from a vendor catalog. There is a built-in default template, or you can create your own custom mapping and custom file. In this case, I'm just going to use custom file. You can tell it which file to import. So you go through your computer. As long as you can get the information into an Excel file or a CSV file, there's some different files, we can import it into here. We tell it what row to start on, where the data is, and we can create the mapping. So the map, we can tell it, all right, in my Excel file, row J, customer last name goes here, customer last name. So you can create that communication between your old system and what the different fields meant and the QuickBooks point of sale system. One thing with customers, it does not bring over customer history, unfortunately. So there are really very few, if any, systems out there that can communicate customer history between different types of software. It can bring over all the customer information, including even account balances, but it cannot bring over history. Back to File. Going to go down to Tools. We've also got Print Designer. So here, when you have a client that says, I have a very specific need for my receipts, or I need my purchase orders or my vouchers or whatever document you have in the system, it needs to look like this. Here's where you can go. You can go to Print Designer. It has every document in the system: inventory tags, layaways, receipts, etc., shipping labels, and we can tell it how we want it to look. 40 column is a standard receipt printer, or they can use an 8.5 by 11. So in here, it allows you to change any document. If you want different information on the document, you want a logo on the document, you want it to be the price to the right-hand side or the price to the left-hand side, you can customize every document in the system down to the most minute detail. Now, these are all the things that when we're setting up the system, although most people want to just kind of install and let's go and let's start selling, we always recommend let's take the time ahead of time before we really go gung-ho with the system and get it set up perfectly. Let's dial everything in. Let's check our preferences. Let's check our documentation. And let's build a solid foundation for the point of sale. If you start fresh, if you start with clean data and clean preferences, you've got that solid foundation that you're going to be happy going forward with the point of sale. And that's where we want to get you. We want you to be so happy with the point of sale that you keep coming back and you stay with the system, and you see the benefits of what this can do. I'm going to pause for questions if we have any.
I got booted just a second ago, Chris. So I don't. So all of my chats disappeared. So I'm not sure that Carolyn and Melody, if they had any, they disappeared from me, but I have not seen them yet.
Okay. Now I'll go through one more thing over here, going back to how we discussed the QuickBooks Financial Exchange. So the communication with the QuickBooks desktop financial software. Once we have it set up, you'll see in these drop downs here, we have financial. And this is the Financial Center. So let's go into the Financial Center module. And here's where you would set up your, once you have the QuickBooks connection set up, here's where you would see it. You can, if you want to manually update your accounting software, you can do update QuickBooks Desktop now. That way it doesn't do it in the middle of the night. Here's where you can view your activity log. And we've got advanced options. So you'll notice here we have import items. If you're using QuickBooks Desktop already and you have inventory items already in QuickBooks Desktop, if you import items now, it'll automatically push over those inventory items into your point of sale. Just like that, if you started with your QuickBooks financial software and then added point of sale, and you have customer information in your financial software, once you connect, it's going to push that customer information down into the point of sale as well. So that way you have that seamless communication between the desktop software and the point of sale. Now that's only, like I said, only for people that have already been using desktop and adding point of sale to the system. Here's where it'll automatically push over that data into your point of sale. If you're using a different system for financial software or starting new in your financial software, you would still want to put the information into point of sale. It'll communicate with the desktop or QBO depending on what you're using, but you'll have to do it in point of sale first. And one more thing, we're going to go over multi-store. So if you got a client using multiple stores, once again, up here we have stores. We have the Store Exchange Center. So here is, depending on how many stores you have, QuickBooks Point of Sale can have up to 20 stores. Here is where you would have all your stores listed. So this will tell you how is the communication working between your stores. Obviously, I'm using a demo version, so my second store is not set up. But if it was, this would be green. It would tell me when the last communication with the store was, when the last time I sent, and when the last time I received. You can manually send and receive the data between the stores. You can set your preferences, change a password, schedule your automatic store exchange all through here, and view your activity log. One thing to keep in mind with multiple stores, the headquarters store, store number one, becomes the end all be all, so to speak, in the system. Items can only be received at the headquarters store and then pushed down. Items can only be created at the headquarters store and pushed down. Any purchase orders, vouchers, receiving vouchers, return vouchers, any documentation has to be created at the headquarters store, and then that is pushed down into the remote stores. So if you have a company that has a centralized distribution location, this makes a lot of sense. Take a look at your company. If the stores are more autonomous and create their own purchase orders, create their own inventory items, and are kind of separate from the main location, that could lead to some issues if you have a multi-store format. I've seen both. We have some clients that have multiple stores, but each store is essentially its own separate entity. and others that have multiple stores and have everything done through the headquarters store. But that's something that you're going to need to dig into and ask questions with your clients as you're getting the system set up. There's pros and cons to each, but we want to make sure that, like, once again, we're setting the clients up for success and to be happy with the QuickBooks with a positive foundation. All right, and that's what I have for today. If I have any questions at the end or any other comments or anything anyone would like to see.
Carolyn or Melody, I will go ahead and stop the recording.